Don't call him my son." Those words froze the air. Every eye in the funeral hall turned toward the coffin, and then toward me. My father's voice recording echoed through the speakers. His will. He had arranged everything before he died. Even this moment, and in that moment, he disowned me. At his own funeral, the guests gasped. My uncles whispered, smirking. My stepbrother stood beside the casket, face full of pride, pretending to wipe tears while hiding his grin. My mother, God bless her, just lowered her eyes, helpless. But me, I stood there like a ghost, holding the folded flag that once covered my father's uniform, the same uniform that I thought I'd grow up to wear one day. Then came the final words from the recording. "He is a disgrace to my name. The army deserves better than a coward. A coward." That's what he called me. The son who spent every night cleaning his boots. The son who carried his medals to every school event. The son who begged him, just once, to say, "I'm proud of you." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Quiet at first, then louder. My stepbrother Adam chuckled openly. He turned to the guests and said, "Well, I guess not every man is born a soldier." They laughed harder. The same officers who once smiled at me at family dinners now looked away, hiding their amusement behind polished medals. I felt the heat crawl up my neck, but I didn't say a word, not a single word. Adam stepped closer, voice dripping with mock sympathy. "You can leave, little brother. No need to embarrass yourself further. This is a soldier's farewell, not a civilian's pity show." His words cut deeper than the silence that followed. I could have walked away. I should have. But then, he took one step too far. He looked at the folded flag in my hands, snatched it, and threw it onto the marble floor. The hall went dead silent. "That's not yours to hold," he sneered. "You never earned it." Something inside me snapped. My fists clenched, but my voice stayed calm. "You're right," I said softly. "I haven't earned it. Yet." That line, simple, quiet, made a few heads turn. But Adam just laughed again. "Earn it? You? What will you do? Work your way up from sweeping floors. The army doesn't take rejects." He smirked at the audience, enjoying every second of my humiliation. "Tell you what," he said, lifting his chin. "If you can pass the officer's qualifying exam in a year, I'll salute you in public. Fail, and you'll never show your face here again." Gasps filled the room. An open challenge. At my father's funeral, he thought I'd refuse. He thought I'd walk away like before. But this time I didn't. I looked him dead in the eye. "A year?" I asked. He nodded, smug. "If you dare." I took a deep breath, then slowly bent down, picked up the flag from the floor, and folded it carefully. "Then let's make it official," I said. "1 year. Remember this moment, Adam, because next time we meet," I paused, my voice dropping to a cold whisper, "you'll be the one saluting." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some laughed again. Others exchanged uneasy glances. Adam waved dismissively. "We'll see. But you'll need more than big words to stand where I stand." I walked out without another word, flag in hand, humiliation burning inside me like fire. Behind me, the laughter started again, but they didn't know. That laughter would be the last sound they'd ever hear from me in defeat, because the next time I returned, it wouldn't be as the disowned son. It would be as the man the army itself would salute. And that's where it began. My father's funeral, my public humiliation, and my first step toward revenge. They thought I'd give up the moment I walked out of that hall. But humiliation has a strange power. It burns quietly, reshaping the weak into something unbreakable. Days turned into weeks. The whispers never stopped. In town, people would lower their voices when I passed by. At the cafe near the academy gates, I'd hear them say, "That's him, the one his own father rejected." Even my old friends avoided eye contact. No one wanted to be seen with the disowned son. But one evening, as I was leaving the library with my books for the entrance exam, Adam's car pulled up beside me. Black military SUV, polished, loud engine. Everything about it screamed arrogance. He rolled down the window. Sunglasses still on, though the sun had already set. "Still dreaming, little brother," he said with a grin. "Or have you realized it's impossible?" I didn't answer. I kept walking. He honked, making heads turn. "Come on! Don't be shy. Tell me, what will you do when you fail? Maybe I'll hire you as my driver. You can salute me every morning." Laughter erupted from his friends inside the car. Each word he spoke was designed to push me lower, to make me break. I turned slightly, calm voice steady. "Don't worry," I said. "When the time comes, you'll know exactly what I'm capable of." He leaned out, smirking. "Capable? You couldn't even carry our father's name. You think you can carry a rifle?" That line hit like a bullet, but I stayed silent, gripping the books tighter, walking away through the murmuring crowd. Behind me, his voice echoed. "A year, remember? Let's see how far your pride takes you." Months passed. I studied through nights so long that the candle wax became my clock. Every page of the military guide, every push-up before sunrise, every drop of sweat, I counted it as interest on the debt he owed me. But fate wasn't done testing me. The day before the first qualifying test, I received a message from my father's old commander. "Your brother has been recommended for early officer promotion. He'll represent the family tomorrow at the ceremony." A ceremony. The same hall. The same people. Who had laughed at me? I stared at the message until my vision blurred. It wasn't just about passing a test anymore. This was about reclaiming the name that was stolen from me. That night, I sat outside under the dim streetlight, flipping through my worn-out notes. My hands trembled from exhaustion, my mind from doubt, and then I remembered my father's words from the recording. "The army deserves better than a coward." Coward. That word used to haunt me. But tonight, it became my fuel. The next morning, the academy hall was filled with officers, cadets, and reporters. Adam stood at the center, medals gleaming under the spotlights. He spotted me in the back row and smirked. "You actually came. Brave of you to witness real soldiers." I didn't reply. I was just there to watch, to remind myself what I was fighting for. When his name was called, applause erupted. He turned, giving a proud salute to the senior officer presenting the award. Then, as the cameras flashed, he locked eyes with me and mouthed the words, "Still a disgrace." The crowd had no idea, but to me, it felt like the whole room was laughing again. After the ceremony, he walked up, his entourage following. "You studying hard?" he mocked. "You'll need a miracle to even qualify for the basic tests." I looked him dead in the eyes, my voice low but firm. "You're right, I will need a miracle, but sometimes miracles wear a uniform." He frowned, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll find out," I said, turning away. The camera flashes still echoed in the background, but in my mind, I saw something else, a silent promise, a reckoning. As I walked out of that hall for the second time, the laughter followed me again, but this time, it didn't sting, because I knew something they didn't. The same humiliation they kept feeding me was the fire that would forge my return. And when that day came, even the proudest uniform in that hall would stand at attention. The night after the ceremony, I couldn't sleep. The sound of applause for Adam still echoed in my ears, louder than any gunfire. I sat in my small apartment, staring at the folded military flag, the same, one I'd picked up from the funeral floor. My reflection in the window looked nothing like the boy who once believed heroes wore medals. That boy died the day my father disowned me, and for the first time, I let myself remember why. 2 years earlier, before the funeral, before everything, my father, Colonel Haroon Malik, was a decorated war hero, respected, feared, and obeyed by everyone, except me. Not because I didn't respect him, but because I could never meet the shadow he cast. He was still. I was silence. Adam, my stepbrother, was his pride. Trained, confident, the perfect soldier. And I was the son who chose books over guns. One afternoon, during a training demonstration, my father invited high-ranking officers to watch Adam lead a mock rescue mission. I was there too, just helping with the logistics, quietly managing equipment, but fate had other plans. A smoke grenade went off early. Visibility vanished. Adam panicked, gave the wrong signal. His team rushed in too soon. 2 cadets were injured, one severely. When the chaos cleared, everyone looked to the colonel for answers, and Adam, trembling, said the words that destroyed me. It was him, sir. He dropped the grenade early. All eyes turned to me, the quiet son, the easy scapegoat. My father's stare could have cracked stone. Is that true? He barked. No, sir. Enough. He didn't even let me finish. He dismissed me from the grounds that very day. I remember the last thing he said as I left the base. Uniform unbuttoned, pride shattered. You'll never stand among soldiers. Not in this lifetime. After that, the whispers began. People stopped calling me by my name. I became the colonel's failure. My mother begged him to forgive me, but he wouldn't even look at her when she spoke of me. And Adam, he made sure the story spread, that I'd panicked, endangered lives, and brought shame to the Malik name. It worked. Everyone believed him. For months, I tried to clear my name. Letters, appeals, requests for review, all unanswered. It was like shouting into a storm that only threw my words back at me. Then one evening, I received a message from someone I never expected. An old officer who had served under my father. He wrote, "You were right. The footage was tampered with. The wrong man took the blame. But be careful. Adam's recommendation came from high places. Don't fight him yet. Learn. Wait." That night, I made a decision. If my father wouldn't believe my words, he'd believe my results. So I started over. I took jobs no one else wanted. Cleaning the academy halls at night, carrying crates at the training grounds, fixing the same rifles the cadets used to mock me with. Every day I watched. I learned. When no one was around, I trained. Push-ups on cold concrete, running drills under the moonlight, memorizing every regulation, every protocol. Failure wasn't an option anymore. There were nights I collapsed in exhaustion, face down in the dirt, but something inside me whispered, "Get up." They're still laughing, and I did, every time. 1 year later, the old officer met me again. He was older, slower, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "You've got the discipline," he said, "but to wear that uniform again, you need someone who believes in you." I looked at him, unsure. Who would believe in a man like me? He smiled faintly. "The same man who believed in your father when no one else did. General Rahman." The name hit like thunder. General Rahman, the living legend, the man who trained generations of soldiers, including my father. If anyone could change my fate, it was him. The officer handed me a sealed letter. "Go to him.
Show him what you've become.
And remember, true soldiers don't seek revenge. They earn respect." I held that letter for hours, thinking of my father, of Adam, of every smirk, every laugh. And then I whispered the only promise I could make. "I don't want revenge. I want justice." The memory faded as the morning sun hit the window. The present returned. My small room, my books, the flag. I folded the letter again and placed it inside my jacket. Tomorrow. I'd go see the general. Tomorrow everything would begin again. But for now, one thought burned clear in my mind. They took everything from me once. This time, I'd take it back, one salute at a time. The next morning, dawn broke over the city like a promise. The air was cool, and the first rays of sunlight painted the sky gold. I walked toward the military academy gates, the same gates that once closed behind me in disgrace. But this time, I walked with purpose. My clothes were simple, worn from long work shifts, yet under that fabric was a body forged by struggle, muscle built through pain, endurance born from humiliation. The guards at the gate stared as I approached. One of them smirked. "You again. Thought you were done here, Malik." I handed him the sealed letter from the retired officer. He read the emblem. General Rahman's insignia, and instantly stiffened. Without another word, the gates opened, the sound of those heavy iron doors swinging wide. It felt like justice whispering, "Welcome back." Inside, cadets were running drills, their boots pounding in rhythm. For a moment, I watched them, their shouts, their confidence, and felt a sting of memory. This was supposed to be my world, but now, I wasn't here to fit in. I was here to prove that I belonged. An aide appeared and led me across the courtyard to the command building. Every step echoed like the heartbeat of the past. When the door opened, I saw him. General Rahman. Tall, grey-haired, a presence that filled the room. His uniform carried no arrogance, only history. He looked up from a file and spoke in a calm, heavy voice. "So, you're Colonel Haroon's son." I stood straight. "Yes, sir. And why are you here?" I hesitated, just for a second. Then I spoke. "To earn what was taken from me, sir." He closed the file, leaned back, and studied me. "They say you were dismissed for negligence, that you dropped a grenade. That's not the truth, sir. And yet, you've stayed silent for years. Because words don't change minds, sir. Only results do." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then a faint smile crossed his lips. "Good answer." He pressed a button on his desk. "Captain Rehan, report to my office." Moments later, a younger officer entered. Tall, confident, carrying the air of authority. "Sir?" "This man," said the general, pointing to me, "wants to rejoin the academy. Put him in the upcoming selection trial. If he survives it, he earns his place." Captain Rehan frowned. "Sir, the trial is for special unit candidates. It's brutal." "Exactly," the general interrupted. Then he looked at me. "Let's see if you're made of the same steel as your father." That night, I was given a barrack bed, small, cold, but more valuable than any luxury I'd known. Around me, young cadets whispered, snickered, laughed. That's him, the failure. The colonel's disappointment came. Back. "He'll quit in a day." I didn't respond. Their laughter was familiar. It was the same sound from the wedding hall. But this time, it didn't cut. It fueled me. Day 1. The selection trial. Before dawn, we were taken to a vast desert training field. Wind howled. Sand stung like glass. Captain Rehan stood before us. "You have 72 hours to complete the endurance circuit. Food and water are earned, not given. Only those who finish stand among the elite." I looked at the horizon. Endless dunes, heat shimmering like fire. It wasn't just a trial. It was a test of will. When the whistle blew, the cadets charged forward. I ran behind them, not slow, not fast, just steady. Every breath burned. Every step sank into the sand. Hours passed. The sun became a furnace. Men dropped out, gasping, collapsing. But I kept moving. Each stride carried the weight of every insult, every laugh, every "you'll never make it." When the night came, the desert turned cold and cruel. I stumbled but didn't stop. And somewhere in the dark, I remembered my father's words. "You'll never stand among soldiers." I clenched my fists. Watch me. By dawn, only 4 of us remained, blistered, exhausted. Rayhan looked surprised when he saw me cross the final checkpoint. "Didn't expect you to last this long," he muttered. I saluted, my voice rough but steady. "Respectfully, sir, I'm just getting started." He studied me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Report to General Rahman tomorrow. He'll want to see this." That night, as I lay under the open sky, the stars felt closer than ever. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outcast. I felt like a soldier. The next day, when I stood in front of the general again, he looked at my worn boots, my blistered hands, my sunburnt face, and then he said, "Welcome back, Malik. The army needs men who rise from failure." He handed me a new badge, the same one I had once lost. "But remember, this isn't the end of your fight. It's only the beginning." And as I saluted him, the words echoed in my mind. This time, no one will laugh. The sun burned high above the academy grounds. Another day of trials. Another chance to break or rise. By now, I had earned quiet stares instead of laughter. The same cadets who mocked me on day 1 now whispered in disbelief. They couldn't understand how the man they called a failure was still standing, still fighting. But one person didn't like that change. Captain Rayhan, the man who had mocked me, the man whose smirk followed me through the desert, now looked uneasy because the whispers had shifted. "He's tougher than we thought." General Rahman himself praised him. Maybe he's not just anyone, and envy has a way of turning into hate. That afternoon, we were called to the Soch Strategy Hall. A grand room lined with maps, models and portraits of past war heroes. A test awaited. The Sunstessart Tactical Simulation Duel. 2 candidates. 1 battlefield. Whoever outwits the other wins. Rayhan stood before the group with a sly smile. "Today," he said, "we test brains, not just brawn. 2 soldiers will face off in a simulated war scenario. The winner earns the general's recommendation." He looked directly at me. "Malik, you'll go first." My stomach tightened. Not with fear, but focus. Then he turned to the crowd. "And your opponent," he paused, "is Captain Adam Rahim." The room fell silent. Even the walls seemed to hold their breath. Adam, the millionaire's son, the man from the wedding, the one who humiliated me in front of everyone, the man who laughed the loudest when I fell. He entered the room, wearing his crisp white uniform, medals gleaming like arrogance. Well, Adam said, his tone dripping mockery. "Didn't expect to see you crawling back here, Malik." I stood tall. "I didn't crawl, Captain. I climbed." Laughter rippled through the room, but this time, not at me. There was something in my voice that made even the arrogant ones go quiet. Rayhan grinned maliciously. "Perfect matchup. Let's see if a man from the mud can beat a man of honor." Adam sneered. "He'll try, but losing is in his blood." The duel began. The tactical simulation. A virtual battlefield projected onto the hall's holographic map. Mountains, rivers, supply lines. Everything built in digital precision. Each side commanded a unit of soldiers, tanks, and drones. The task: secure the enemy base within 30 minutes. Using strategy alone. Adam started fast, aggressive, flashy. He commanded his units like he was playing for applause, not survival. Every move was loud, every order filled with ego. He looked at me with a grin. "You watching, Malik? This is how real men lead." I didn't answer. Instead, I studied the terrain, the choke points, the wind direction, the supply routes. I noticed his weakness immediately. He was overconfident. He was fast, too fast. 10 minutes in, the crowd cheered for Adam. His units pushed mine back. Rayhan smirked. "Looks like the underdogs." Luck ran out, but I stayed calm because I wasn't playing for the crowd. I was playing for the win. At minute 15, I ordered a retreat, intentionally. Gasps filled the hall. "He's running! Coward!" Adam laughed out loud. "Running again, Malik? Just like your father did." That line hit deep, but I didn't react. I simply smiled, because his army had just walked into my trap. Minute 22. Adam's troops crossed the river to finish me, and that's when I detonated the hidden mines. Boom! Half his units gone in one move. The crowd went dead silent. Adam's grin vanished. "What? That wasn't in the—" "It was." I interrupted quietly. "You just didn't notice. You were too busy celebrating." General Rahman, watching from the balcony, raised an eyebrow. He leaned to his aide. "That's not luck. That's calculation." Minute 28. Adam panicked. His formation collapsed. I advanced, methodically, quietly, crushing his defense step by step. When the simulation timer hit 0, my forces surrounded his base. A soft electronic tone echoed. Simulation complete. Winner, Malik. The hall erupted, not in laughter, in awe. General Rahman stood up slowly, clapping once, then again, until the entire room followed. Even Rayhan lowered his head, but Adam was pale. He slammed his fist on the console. "He cheated! There's no way he—" The general's voice cut through the noise like thunder. "Enough!" He stepped forward, his tone cold and sharp. "This man won with intelligence, patience, and discipline, the traits of a true soldier. You lost because arrogance blinds strategy." Then he turned to me. "Malik, report to my office after this." When the room cleared, Adam lingered, glaring at me. "Don't think this changes anything. You'll never be one of us." I looked at him, calm and steady. "You're right," I said. "I'll be better." And for the first time since that cursed wedding night, he had no comeback. That evening, when I entered the general's office, he stood by the window, watching the sunset. Without turning, he said, "You handled that duel like a commander. You fought smart, not loud." I saluted. "Thank you, sir." He looked at me, long, thoughtful. "There's something I didn't tell you. About your father. About why you were really expelled." My breath caught. The room felt heavier. He continued, "It wasn't your mistake, Malik. It was theirs. And the man behind it," he paused, "was Captain Adam's father." Cliffhanger. Malik's world shatters. The humiliation that ruined his life was part of a cover-up. Now the revenge is no longer personal. It's familial justice. The truth is on the table, and you can't hide from it. Every head turned. The room had gone cold in a heartbeat. Adam's face drained of color, as if someone had pulled the blood from his cheeks. He tried to laugh, but the sound stuck in his throat. It started with a knock at the Academy archive. A quiet place no one thought about. Captain Rayhan had ordered the logs sealed. Adam's father had smiled and assumed the story would never be reopened. He was wrong. General Rahman walked to the center of the hall, the old officer's sealed letter in his hand. He looked at me, then at the assembly of officers and guests, and said, quietly but with power, "Open this." An aide broke the seal and projected the contents on the big screen. Transcribed orders, tampered footage, timestamps, and a chain of signatures that led, unmistakably, to a man who had everything to gain by blaming me. The digital evidence blinked in the warm light, clear as daylight. A murmur rose, confused at first, then sharp. Faces shifted, eyes hunted for Adam. He was no longer the confident captain from the simulation. He was a hollow echo of his bravado. "You fabricated the report," General Rahman said slowly, each word a strike. "You altered the footage. You made this boy the scapegoat to hide your own mistake." He pointed to Adam's father's signature on the file, then to Adam himself. "You profited from it." Adam opened his mouth, then closed it. He stammered meaningless denials. The more he spoke, the smaller he looked. His supporters edged away as if their collars burned. I watched him finally see what I had carried for years. Not just the memory of shame, but the map showing who had drawn it. I almost felt sorry. Almost. "Show them the recording." Adam barked at his father, but no one obeyed. The old man had left that life behind. He could not undo what had been done. He only stood there, slack-jawed, as the hall absorbed the truth. General Rahman stepped forward and handed the officer the original tampered clip. The room watched the corrected version play. Clear, steady, proving it was Adam's misread signal that caused the accident, and that the later file had been edited to point the blame at me. The footage removed the smoke and fear and replaced it with a calm sequence. Exposing the lie, a stunned silence followed, and then a single whisper from the back of the hall. "How could they?" Captain Rayhan, who had once sneered at me, now looked ashamed. He muttered, "I should have checked." His voice was small. Regret spread across his face like frost. Adam tried to salvage his honor. He stood, voice cracking. This is a setup." He looked toward his father, then at the general, searching for an ally. There was none. The wealthy guests who had smiled at his jokes in the past now looked at him as if they had been tricked by a mask. A few rose to leave. Others stayed, stunned into attention. General Rahman's finger pointed directly at Adam. "You used a name to cover your failure. You betrayed friends. You betrayed your father's legacy." The general's voice was steel. "You owe this man an apology. You owe the army the truth." For a moment, Adam's chest heaved as he tried to breathe. Then, with a face gone pale and rigid, he stammered, "Apology? To him?" He spat the words like a dare. "No," I said, voice flat. "Apology to the families of the cadets who were hurt. Apology to every soldier who trusted you." He flinched as if struck. The guests leaned forward like a tide. The air tasted metallic. Like the moment before a storm breaks, the admiral, the outsider who had watched from the balcony, stepped down. He had been quiet until now, his uniform spotless, eyes unreadable. He walked over, stopped a step from Adam, and removed his cap. The room held its breath. "You think rank protects you?" The admiral asked in a voice that cut through the crowd. "You think money buys truth?" He stared at Adam with cold clarity. "A soldier's duty is to honesty. You failed it." When the admiral spoke, the atmosphere shifted. People who had laughed now felt shame. Friends shuffled away. Cameras clicked faster, hungry for the collapse. Adam's lip trembled. He reached for words, for excuses, for anything that might rebuild his crumbling stage. Instead, someone in the crowd, a mother whose son had been injured in the earlier incident, stood and wept openly. Her tears were not for me. They were for the betrayal she had been fed. Her voice shook the room. "You lied to us." That simple accusation landed like a verdict. Adam's supporters dissolved. His patron guests averted their eyes. The millionaire's confidence had been replaced by something raw and small. Fear. He backed toward the table, knocked over a glass, red wine spilled like a stain that could not be cleaned. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. A man who had used wealth as armor now found himself exposed. General Rahman turned to me. "What do you want?" he asked. It was not an empty question. It was permission. I could ask for punishment, for public humiliation, for quiet justice. I had rehearsed revenge 1,000 nights. For a breath, the old hunger flickered. The desire to watch him fall, to hear him beg. Then, I saw my father's folded flag in my hands and felt something else. This was not about spectacle. It was about truth. It was about the dignity that comes with being seen fairly. "I want the record cleared," I said. "I want the academy to know what happened. And I want those families to have the truth." The general nodded. "Consider it done." He signed orders that would open the files, reinstate reviews, and force a public inquiry. The room hummed with the weight of that decision. Adam realized then what was happening. He was not merely losing a game. He was losing his story. The story he had told to cover his guilt. He lunged forward suddenly, desperate, and shoved a tray, trying to create a distraction. It clattered. Guests recoiled. Security moved in. Enough. The admiral barked. 2 officers grabbed Adam's arms. He fought, wild and panicked, but they overpowered him. He thrashed, then sagged, chest heaving, his bravado shattered. The crowd watched as the millionaire's son was led away, not as a man of power, but as a frightened figure in the center of a scene he had scripted and lost. Cameras burned bright. Whispers became a roar. I stood there, the flag in my hands, feeling the long arc of years bend toward one point. The final blow had been struck, not with violence, but with truth. As Adam disappeared down the corridor, he turned his head once. Eyes meeting mine, there was no plea, only a small broken look that said, wordlessly, he had been found out. The hole erupted, not in mockery, but in something heavier, a stunned, exacting silence that finally acknowledged what had been hidden. The hall was still echoing when the Admiral gave his final command. "Stand down. Everyone!" Silence spread through the room like a tide pulling back from shore. Adam was gone. The chaos had drained out, leaving only the sound of heavy breaths, clicking cameras, and hearts that didn't know whether to pity or applaud. I stood there, still holding the flag, the one I had picked from the floor at my father's funeral. It no longer felt like a burden. It felt earned. General Rahman turned to the guests, his voice calm but heavy. Today, a soldier's name was restored, and a lesson was learned, that honor cannot be inherited. It must be proven. No one spoke. No one dared to. Then slowly people began to rise from their chairs. Some clapped, others just bowed their heads. The same crowd that once whispered behind my back now looked at me differently, not as the disgraced son, but as the man who stood when silence was easier. From the corner of the room, I saw my father's old comrades, men who had served with him, men who once avoided me, step forward. One by one they saluted, a quiet line of respect, forming like an unspoken apology. The Admiral joined them, his boots echoing softly against the marble floor. He stopped in front of me and said, "You carried pain with discipline. That's rarer than courage." He paused. "The uniform may not be on your body, but it never left your heart." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I stood straight, heels together, chin high, and saluted back. It wasn't to him. It was to every night I didn't quit, to every insult I turned into fuel, to the younger version of me who refused to stay broken. Outside the hall, the air was cool, early evening light turning gold on the academy walls. Reporters waited, shoving mics and questions forward. "Will you press charges? What's next for you? Do you forgive him?" I just smiled faintly and said, "I already did." The truth did the rest, and then I walked past them. No anger, no pride, just peace. The kind that only comes after years of carrying silence. A week later, the Academy issued a formal statement clearing my name. The same newspaper that once printed, "Colonel's son, disgraced in training mishap," now wrote, "Truth emerges. Malik family scandal exposed." They called me the man who chose dignity over revenge, but I didn't see it as revenge at all. I saw it as balance, finally restored. A few days after, I visited my father's grave. The sky was quiet, the wind slow, carrying the smell of earth and rain. I placed the folded flag on the headstone and knelt. "You were wrong about me, Father," I whispered, "but I still became what you wanted. Not through your orders, but through your silence." For a moment, I thought I felt him there. The same stern presence, now softer, like pride wrapped in regret. From behind, a voice broke the stillness. Permission to approach. It was the Admiral. He stood with a faint smile, holding something. A new flag, neatly folded. "This," he said, "belongs to men who've earned their honor back." He placed it beside my father's. 2 flags, 2 legacies, one earned by command, one by redemption. He offered his hand. "The Defense Council would like you to train the next batch of officers, not as a soldier, as an instructor. Teach them what no medal can measure." I hesitated, eyes on the horizon, then nodded. "If it keeps them from becoming like him." "I'll do it," the Admiral smiled. "Good answer." He saluted once, then turned and walked away. As the sun began to set, I stood alone by the grave, not mourning anymore, but remembering. The laughter, the humiliation, the challenge, all of it had led here, not to revenge, to justice. And when I finally walked away, the wind caught the edge of the flag, making it ripple softly, like an old soldier saying goodbye. Later, back at the Academy, the cadets whispered stories about that day, how the quiet man stood against the powerful, how the truth, once buried, stood taller than any rank, and how, when the Admiral said, "Attention," no one laughed ever again, because they knew respect isn't demanded, it's earned. Moral: true greatness doesn't shout.